Welcome to Shamanism, Metaphysics, and Grace. I'm Lauren Hubele, and I'm delighted again to be joined with Jyoti Wind today. Jyoti, welcome.
Thank you, Lauren. Pleasure to be here.
It's always a pleasure, Jyoti, and it's always a beautiful unfolding of your wisdom, and I'm so grateful for you sharing that. Would you mind opening our space today?
Okay. Grandmothers and grandfathers of the East, we call to you. We ask for your benevolence. We ask for your insights. Grandmothers and grandfathers of the South, we call to you. We ask for your sense of direction and purpose to help place our feet on the right path for us. Grandmothers and grandfathers of the West, we call to you. We ask for your healing and the ways in which we can heal ourselves. Grandmothers and grandfathers, wisdom keepers of the North, we call to you. We ask for your wisdom in seeing what we need to see and really seeing it. We offer our blessings and our thanks. Grandfather Sky, keeper of the starry night, we ask for your protection in all things. Grandmother Earth, you whose cells we occupy, we ask to be reminded of our own mercy and compassion as we go out into the world each day. And to that inner ancestor, wise being who lives in our hearts, may it also inform our choices every day. So I brought something fairly short to read. How do we accept and take into our hearts all the parts that have hidden long away in the dark, moist, and cloistered inner life? How do we open ourselves to the green and voices of the trees and all those unencumbered with the human mind's protocol, and just let it all in and relax away from everything that's been before?
Thank you, Jyoti. Last week we had such an insightful conversation about how someone begins and how to just start finding yourself. Where would you like to take this conversation today?
Well, I feel that it's people call it conscience. Our conscience speaks to us, especially when we're maybe contemplating something a little maybe not exactly right for us. Okay. And so that inner voice that speaks to us, I mean, if we listen, it continues to be heard. If we stop listening or stop responding or stop giving it credit, then it stops speaking, or it stops speaking so loudly, and it becomes just kind of a whisper. And all of a sudden our inner guidance is just kind of whispering in the background, and we're not really paying attention because we've looked away from it.
Mm-hmm. So this conscience, and it's interesting, I hadn't thought about the word that way because I learned that word growing up in my Catholic faith, and that my conscience would speak to me. I think that's what so many others have called our soul or our higher self, right? And it's always offering guidance in our life.
Yes, that inner voice, that inner wisdom that we carry with us as spiritual beings having a human experience.
Mhm.
And so that voice of wisdom is there. We just have to tune into it and kind of let it know that we want to hear what it has to offer us. Because the more we tune in, the more we are willing to listen, the louder that voice speaks.
So, if I haven't been listening to my inner voice, how might I come to trust my inner voice?
Well, I think there's a biblical quote, and I might really, murder this, but it's something like, uh, listening to that voice to make sure it is of God or to make sure it is of good. It's like testing it almost. As a human, can I trust this voice? Does it have my best interests at heart? And just opening yourself, and maybe speaking into yourself, with your mind, with your thinking. Okay, I want to hear this voice. I want this voice of my own wisdom to help me make choices that are the best for all the parts of me concerned, whether it's my ego, whether it's my spirit, my soul, all these different parts of me, and my day to day life, and how I live in the world and what I bring to the world. How do I do that? Sometimes it's just by asking inside yourself. I want to hear that inner voice. I want to know what its wisdom has for me.
Mhm. Mhm. And how do I learn to discern between my will or
Mhm.
what the external world's telling me and that inner voice?
Or what my self-indulgences might want me to do, or want to do. So it's learning discernment. There's times that inner voice has said to me, go home
Mhm.
right now, go home, and I'll say, okay. I mean, it'll take me a while to get there, but okay. um I might be very rebellious at times in this outer world because that's my ego nature, let's say. But in those inner worlds, I'm fairly responsive and take responsibility for all of that. And so I'll go home and a phone call will come, or there'll be a knock at the door. And if I hadn't been there, that series of events wouldn't have unfolded. And I listen. I
Mhm.
listen. And it's that active listening and that willing to listen inside yourself that gives you the guidance you need. I mean, I remember asking like 5 people, what do you think I should do in this situation? And I got 5 different pieces of advice, and I just sat with myself and I thought, what do I think I should do here? Or what do I feel drawn to do just out of my own process, my own sense of self? And so I didn't take anybody's advice. I just took my own. I mean, sometimes we need to hear what other people would do. It
Mhm.
opens us to possibilities we might not consider, but ultimately we have to check in with ourselves to see what's the decision that's really right for me at this time.
Yeah. Jyoti, there's a deep sense of confidence I can hear that you have in yourself. Have you always been like that?
No, no, no. I knew from a certain point in time that I needed to be more inner oriented, more inwardly, checking in with myself. Um, but I didn't always follow the advice. I didn't always want to hear it.
Mhm.
I had other agendas, that I was pursuing. Um, but the more I checked in with myself and the more I listened internally, the less stress, the easier it was to be able to see not to figure out and always analyzing and trying to figure things out, but to see, okay, this would be the best path right now, or the best decision at this point in time, and I could change it and make another decision down the road. I mean, that's all free will, and the flexibility and the malleability of life. I can always change it, but at this moment in time, this is what is most up for me inside.
Yeah. Yeah. So over time, having positive experiences, listening to yourself,
Yeah.
has enriched your trust in yourself.
Yes, and also I'm big on gratitude. I always feel like if I forget my gratitude, I'm in trouble, you know? And so um, being grateful for what's given, whether it's that voice or opportunities or insights, and really being grateful and thankful for the experiences that come my way, even if I'm not happy in it in the moment. you know
Yeah.
like this weekend, I had an experience, and it was kind of confusing in a way, and I couldn't see exactly what the point of it all was and why it had found its way to me. And then all of a sudden I had this insight. It was like, that flash of insight, that Uranian kind of energy, intuition. And I saw why this was happening and what was being shown to me. And I was just infinitely grateful, because it helped me clear, or see first, and then work through clearing something that I've carried my whole life, and whether it's in my DNA or my family experience or friendship relationships, I realize, oh, this has all been a mirror for me to look at what I'm doing. And in that moment, I was just so infinitely grateful, because it's like, working with the shadow. Once you make something conscious, you have choice whether to keep doing it that way or to change it. And so gratitude has always been huge for me. And so when you ask into yourself, you use prayer or meditation, or go into therapy with somebody that you develop a trust with, whatever avenue you take, dream work, um, to get to know yourself on a deeper level and begin to trust that the outcome really inspires your gratitude, really evokes your gratitude for life, and the choices and the healings that are possible.
Mhm. Beautiful. Jyoti, if I'm listening, as I hope many of our listeners are thinking, how might I start a practice to come in closer touch or closer relationship with my inner voice? What does that look like?
Um, you can listen to your breath to calm the mind. Mind and breath are connected. And so as you calm your breathing, your mind starts to calm down a little bit. Um, and then as you calm your mind, your breathing slows. Um, that's one way in a sense, one way to just kind of begin that process of looking inside. Therapy, psychotherapy is a good model. Dream work and keeping a dream journal at night, because your dreams will speak to you. Um, there's many different ways in, and sometimes things happen that I call just pure grace. I remember walking across a meadow in a schoolyard. My kids were little, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I just had this feeling of absolute okayness. I mean, the Catholics would say God's in his heaven and all's right with the world. For me, it was just a feeling of everything's okay, just peace, peace in the valley, peace in my heart, and just so that's pure grace. I call that pure grace. I didn't do anything to get there. It just came to me, and I was very grateful for that experience. It happens once in a while, but there can be years in between those experiences. So sometimes you're kind of given a boon, and sometimes you have to practice. If you want to play the guitar, you have to practice. If you want to have insights into yourself, you have to open doors. You have to be willing to sit. You have to be willing to um, adventure inside with a therapist, perhaps, or a witness, or sitting out under a tree and have nature be your witness to your unfolding. And but it's like yoga. If you want to be able to do the asanas and stretch your body in a way that feels good to you, you have to do it. You have to make time.
Yeah. Yeah. So are there particular practices for someone that's brand new at this and hasn't really given it attention that you would suggest?
Just asking into yourself. I want to see. I want to know what my next step is.
Mm,
Because sometimes people are, they're right on the edge. They're kind of like, I really want to know, I want to know what the next step is. I'm willing to go forward, but I don't know where to go or what it looks like. Um, when you go to bed at night, ask into yourself. I want to know. I think that we all have guides, we all have guardian angels, we have protective spirits, we have, even if you don't know who they are, that's fine. But there are those beings whose job it is to help you and help you remember who you really are. I mean, this isn't creating a new self. This is uncovering the state of sleep we go through when we come here. When we're born, we go through a state of forgetting of who we really are. And so it becomes just, an uncovering, a willingness to uncover the layers from this sleep state and wake up to who we really are. And asking into yourself at night, when you go to bed at night, your guides, those beings, those guardian angels, they all hear that. They know that. They know where you're at, but you have to ask. It's like that Star Trek directive, you can't interfere unless you're asked, let's say. And so you have to ask. You have to ask for the help that you want. If you can't figure it out for yourself, or you're just not sure about things, then you have to go inside and you have to ask inside yourself. And then all those beings that are there to help you, they hear that too. And they will spring to life
mm. That's lovely.
because that's their job. That's their job. That's why they're there with you.
Yeah. Before we started recording, you mentioned that if you don't listen, that those voices begin to go away. What do you
Yeah, they become fainter, harder to hear. And so by opening yourself inside, you are, and asking for help, you are inviting those voices to speak louder, whether you call it your conscience, your higher self, your soul. That voice becomes louder. It might take a while, but it becomes louder so that you hear it.
Mm, mm. Yeah, so like you said, like meditation or yoga, the more we do it, the better we get at it, the louder the voices are, the more,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, and it's not the voices in your head.
Yeah.
What I
Thank you.
mean?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, it's just that inner voice that is there to guide you through this territory of a human life.
Yeah. Beautiful.
And mystics refer to it, and people who are um, guiding others on a spiritual path. I mean, it's been around in recorded history for, eons, about listening and cultivating that inner voice, which
Mm,
is the truth of you, speaking the truth of you.
I like that. Jyoti, do you have a practice for us to try out today?
Yes, I have a short visualization, just very simple.
Mm,
Okay, so if we close our eyes and we just let go of a breath of the day and of having to get this right, it's just a little experiment. So whether it works or not, you can always try it again if you feel so moved. So you just breathe out, take a nice deep breath. Another one, just release the cares of the day for a moment. You can go back to them afterwards. And just ask into yourself. I want to know. I want to know what the next step is for me. I want to know who I really am. I want to know what this life is about for me. Any of those questions or all of them, just ask into yourself. I want to know myself. And it may be absolutely silent in there, and that's a good thing too. It's creating space. Your busy mind might be running from one storyline to another. That's okay. That's what the mind does. But just stay in that quiet or that query, just for a moment. And the more you do it, the more spacious it gets, and the longer you can stay with it, so that voice has room to come forward, or that flashing of intuition to know what the next step is. And then take a nice deep breath and come back to yourself.
nice. Thank you, Jyoti. Is there anything else you'd like to share on this topic?
No, I think that's it for today.
Great, great.
Yeah.
Thank you. And for our listeners, where can they find out more information about your work?
I have a website, jyotywindastrology.com, and I have a free YouTube channel that has classes and a few things about shamanism on there as well. So you just go to YouTube and type in my name and it should come up.
Okay, and any new classes coming up soon?
I'm looking at developing, I'm in the midst of developing this upper world shamanic workshop, working with the angels and the new earth.
Wow, sounds fascinating.
It is.
Great. Well, thanks, Jyoti, for your time today.
Thank you, Lauren.